Hello and welcome once again to First Dog on the Moon's Spoken Cartoons. I'm cartoonist First Dog on the Moon, and today's spoken cartoon is about drop crocs. It was published in The Guardian on Friday the 14th of November. It's a 6-frame cartoon, so we'd better get into it as ever. There's a little heading at the top of the cartoon. Under the text, I've drawn a drop croc scientist who is fascinated by someone who has a drop croc on their head. There's a label with drop croc pointing to the drop croc, which looks like a croc, and it is, sitting on someone's head. And that person is the droppee, as their label says. They're saying help, and there's a bit of blood. The text at the very top of the cartoon reads, "Drop crocs. Everyone loves drop crocs, or do they? It certainly sounds like fun until you walk under a tree and ... ellipsis. On to frame 1. In this frame I've drawn a croc. It's looking at its phone and saying amazing. It's a beautifully drawn crocodile, actually, very green, lots of teeth. The text above the crocodile reads, "In the 90s, a bunch of 55-million-year-old fossilised crocodile eggshells were found in Murgon, Queensland. That's Waka Waka country. New research on those shells reckons they come from a now extinct group of crocs known as mecosukines. Mecosukines are so old they predate modern, quote-unquote, crocodiles who've only been around for 5 million years or so." On now to frame 2. I've drawn someone standing under a tree. They're looking up as a crocodile leaps out of the tree. The crocodile saying, ha ha ha, and about to land on the person who is screaming, "Drop croc." The text above all this exciting drop croc action reads, "According to prehistoric crocodile egg scientists, some of the crocs in this family may have hunted arboreally, i.e. jumped out of trees onto surprised things and then eaten them, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it." That's followed by the drawing of the croc, or the drop croc, dropping. Onto frame 3, I've drawn a similar picture. I've drawn a much larger crocodile, and this one is jumping onto out of a tree and onto a Hyundai. And the text above it reads, "These ancient drop crocs were not the newfangled modern 20-foot-long 1-ton salties, quote-unquote, which is a pity, because it would be pretty exciting if one of those landed on your Hyundai and tried to eat your poodle Clarissa through the passenger window." And we can see Clarissa there in the Hyundai. Hyundai didn't sponsor this video. I should say that I just think it's a funny name for a car. And someone is saying, "Clarissa, no!" And there's a sign which says, "Scenic drive, stay in your car," and there are bushes and trees. But obviously the main action is from the croc going boing, and it's as long as the car. That's the joke in this frame. The original drop crocs weighed 2 kilograms and were less than a metre long, but even so. Onto frame 4. I've drawn the same thing again, but instead of a croc dropping out of the tree, it's a scone, and the person underneath is looking up screaming, "Drop scone," and the scone is saying, "Ha ha." The text at the top reads, "My gran's name was Martha, and she used to make drop scones," and I've done an asterisk there, which takes us to a footnote that says, "Apparently when people asked Gran for the recipe for her famous drop scones, she would say she got it off the packet of flour." She was a seemingly dour Scot, but she had a great sense of humour. So the text continues, "Drop scones, which is the Scottish name for a pikelet. But if a pikelet jumped out of a tree on you, you'd probably be okay, unless it was one of the big hungry ones." And underneath the picture of the drop scone leaping out of the tree, I have written, there is some conjecture that drop scones and pikelets are not the same. But that's for a cartoon at another time. On to frame 5, and I've drawn a scientist looking through an extremely complicated machine at an eggshell, and the text above it reads, "Anyway, fossilized eggshells apparently preserve microstructural and geochemical signals that tell science what kind of animals laid them, but also where they nested and how they bred. For example," and the scientist who's looking through the complicated machine which has dials and a strange ray projecting onto the eggshell, the scientist is saying, "This egg is from a chicken named Loretta who laid it under the pittosporum near your back door." And then I've drawn Loretta as well. She is a red chicken, and she's saying "bagurk," or probably more like "bagurk." The final frame, frame 5, I've drawn a croc scientist. That's a crocodile with glasses and a white coat holding a clipboard. And there's a little label pointing to it that says croc scientist. The text at the top reads, "According to some commentators, irregardless of people's sexual proclivities, every 3 months a person is torn to pieces by a crocodile in North Queensland. So is there something these ancient predators can teach us about our priorities in an ever-changing world? Probably not." And then the crocodile is saying, "Remember, crocodiles are more afraid of us than we are of them." And underneath that, I've written a very small label that says, "That is not actually true." Which brings us to the end of this edition of First Dog on the Moon's Spoken Cartoons. I've had a lovely time. I hope you've had a lovely time. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment. YouTube have said if I get enough subscribers, they'll arrange for Jasper Bumrah to come down to the local cricket oval and teach me how to bowl a googly. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Anyway, thanks for listening.